Well, that's one of the more fascinating things about Elon buying Twitter. Because, boy, did that throw a monkey wrench into everything. When you see, like, Biden's tweets get fact-checked, you're like, whoa.
Yep. There's a lot of things showing up on Twitter now that were not showing up on Twitter before.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
So much.
Yep.
And just nutty shit, too.
Yep.
I mean, like, some of the wackiest conspiracy theories, Michelle Obama's a man, like, all that kind of stuff, flat Earth. But
birds.
I'd rather have that.
My favorite is the birds, by the way.
Yeah, birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real.
Yeah.
That one I'm pretty sure of. It doesn't make any sense.
That had to be
like, why can't we
4chan thing?
Like, why can't we fly? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be a 4chan thing.
Yeah. You know, sometimes they're onto something.
But I like that.
Yeah.
I like that wacky shit that's mixed in with things. I mean, it seems insane. But when I'll look at like some of the people that are putting it up there, and I look at their profiles, and I look at their American flag and their bio, and I'm like, are you a real human? This is a troll farm in Macedonia. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
There is, and of course he says he wants to. You know, of course he says he plans to over time. He plans to root all that out.
Yeah,
he wants all identity to be validated, verified online. Having said that, we fought a war for free speech. We fought the Revolutionary War. A lot of that was for free expression. The founding fathers of this country very frequently wrote under pseudonyms.
Interesting.
Just like Twitter anons.
Really?
And this includes like Ben Franklin, when he was a commercial printer, he had like 15 different pseudonyms.
Really?
He would sell newspapers by having his different pseudonym personalities argue with each other in his own newspaper. He'd like fight it out. Like he'd have sock puppets. And then, like the Federalist Papers was all written under pseudonyms.
Really?
Yeah. Like Madison, all these guys were under pseudonyms. And so like...
Why'd they do that?
Because there was danger. Like there was very real danger associated with being like, are you going to like, what's the king going to think?
Right.
Right. Like, is it like, this is sort of the two lines of argument, which is like, okay, like if somebody is not willing to put their own name behind something, like, should they be allowed to say it? And there's an argument, in that direction, obvious one. But the other argument is, sometimes there are things that are too dangerous to say unless you can't put your name behind it.
Yeah, that does make sense. So it seems like the pros would outweigh the cons.
Well, even just the micro version, which is just like, if you got something to say that's important, but you don't want to be harassed in your, you don't want your family to get harassed.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want, protests showing up outside your house for something you said.
Anonymous whistleblower protection.
Whistleblower protection. Yeah, exactly. This is, yes, was it the one person's a terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. One person's whistleblower is another person's troll. Like, I don't know. Like, and the genius of the American system is, like, say what you want, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's have it out, right? And so, that's the system I believe in.
I believe in that system too. But I also see Elon's perspective that it would be great if it wasn't littered with propaganda and fake troll accounts that are being used by various, unscrupulous states.
And in fairness, what Elon says, actually, it's interesting. What Elon says is you will be allowed to have an anon or what they call sued or anon account under some other name you make up on the service. You'll just have to register that behind the scenes with your real identity.
Oh.
And specifically with like a credit card, right?
But then the fear is that someone will be able to get in there.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Which has happened already.
Yeah, that's right. And that is a big risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, you get the other part of this would be like Twitter is only one company, right? And so it's an important one, but it's only one, and there are others as well. So, for the full consideration of like quote unquote rights on this topic, you also want to look at what is happening elsewhere, right, including on all the other services. I'm
fascinated by companies like Twitter and YouTube that develop at least a semi-monopoly. Yeah. Because YouTube is a great example. Like if you want to upload videos, YouTube is the primary marketplace for that. And it's like nothing else is even close. Everything else is a distant second. But they've got some pretty strict controls and pretty serious censorship on YouTube. And it seems to be accelerating, particularly during this presidential election. Now that you're seeing these Robert Kennedy Jr. podcasts get pulled down from a year ago, 2 years ago, the Jordan Peterson one got pulled down. Theo Vaughn's interview with Robert Kennedy got pulled down. There's been some others. And Brett Weinstein, no, his didn't. But it's just these conversations were up for a long time, and it wasn't until Robert Kennedy running for president that they decided like these are inconvenient narratives that he's discussing.
Right. So I don't want to. I should not weigh in on exactly which companies have whatever level of monopoly they have. Having said that, to the extent that companies are found to have monopolies, or let's say sort of dominant market positions, like that should bring an additional level of scrutiny on conduct. And then there is this other thing I mentioned earlier, but I think is a big deal, which is if a company is making all these decisions by itself, you can argue that it maybe has the ability to do that. Although again, maybe it shouldn't past a certain point in terms of being a monopoly. But the thing that's been happening is it's not just the companies making these decisions by themselves. They've come under intense pressure from the government.
Right.
And they've come under intense pressure from the government in public statements and threats from senior government officials. They have come in private channeled threats. And then all of the stuff I was talking about earlier, all the channeling of all the money from the government that's gone into these pro-censorship groups, right, that are actively working to try to suppress speech. And when you get into all of that, those are crimes.
Yeah.
That's illegal. Like everything I just described, I think is illegal. And there are specific, like actual felony basically counts in the U.S. code for like those things actually being illegal. There are violations of constitutional rights, and it is a felony to deprive somebody of their constitutional rights. And so I think in addition to what you said, I think it's also true that there's been a pattern of government involvement here that is, I think, certainly illegal. And, put it this way, this administration is not going to look into that. Maybe a future one will. So
do you think it's illegal, it just hasn't been litigated yet?
Yeah. Well, I think there's evidence of substantial criminality in the Twitter files that have come out. You need to have somebody, prosecutors have to, You either need class action lawsuits, right? You need to be able to go carve it open with large scale civil suits, or you need actual government, like criminal investigation.
And what has come out of the Twitter files other than independent journalists researching it and discussing it and writing articles? It's not being covered with any significance in mainstream news. Well,
the mainstream media has been on the side of censorship for the last 8 years. Like they've been pounding the table that we need to lock down speech, right, a lot more. So that they're compromised. And then the other investigation to watch is, I think it's the Missouri Attorney General. There's this state level investigation where there's been a bunch of interesting stuff that's come out. And the attorneys general have subpoena power. So they have subpoenaed a bunch of materials from a bunch of companies that, again, to me, looks like evidence of criminality. But again, you need prosecutors. You need the political force of will and desire to investigate and prosecute crimes.
And to engage in that battle.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if it's private, if it's private litigation, you need to try to do a big class action suit. You need to be prepared to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court. And there's a lot of money involved in that.